Good evening, everybody. My name's James. I'm doing a PhD in chemistry here at the University of Glasgow. I'm English. But it's not that bad. I'm northern. So I moved up to Scotland, and I was used to a few things, like the awful weather and the really unhealthy cuisine, but I did get a little bit of a culture shock. You see, I needed some vacuum in my fume hood to run an experiment, and I got some really funny looks when I asked the lab technician for a pump. And then I went to give blood in Scotland, and found out that the English and Scottish blood systems are completely different. Oh no, you've got to fill in these forms again. You're bleeding for Scotland now. But I'm still undecided about Scottish independence. On one hand, I'd quite like to live in a country with fewer Tories and a sex and gender studies seminar with free falafel. But I'd really, really hate to see my country be fragmented. But I've got a solution and a compromise. Join us, we'll ditch the South. And I don't just mean, like, Watford Gap South. My definition of South is anything south of the first Waitrose south of Manchester. So I study chemistry, and I thought I'd have a look at the chemical industry of an independent Scotland. Well, the Republic of Ireland's chemical industry is having a little bit less of a hard time recently, because the Pfizer factory that makes Viagra has been shut down. So disappointing. Well, Scotland's main chemical export is whiskey, which does pretty much the opposite. But then I realized that alcohol isn't the solution. Alcohol is a solvent. Chemists use solvents every day. We use it to dissolve stuff. We use it to clean stuff out of shitey old glassware. And the way we see it, the Scots are just distilling all this solvent and they're using it to clean out these shitey old barrels. And afterwards, when they're done, they're selling it. Cheeky bastards. And they reckon the angels take a portion of the whiskey every single year. Chemists, we say that's bollocks, that's evaporation. You seal off the building, you stick a condenser on the top, collect what comes out, up yours Gabriel, I drink the lot. So, I'm gonna talk about a difficult word. It begins with F, and it ends with G, and it gives all researchers a massive hard-on. Funding. Now, Scottish research gets the biggest chunk of its funding from the UK research councils, but Scotland goes independent, UK universities think, fine, and more for us. We can solve it, though. Independent Scotland, if it's got the cash, can set up Scottish research councils. Makes it a little bit more difficult, though, since the people you have to convince to give you money are now Scottish. But the SNP are going to fucking love it, because these are Scottish research councils doing Scottish research in a Scottish way. And I'm just thinking of how they're going to organise a conference. Oh, shite! The caterers are pulled out for tomorrow. What are we going to do? What have we got that's Scottish? We just have munchie boxes. What? Aye. Munchie boxes are Scottish. They're fucking everywhere. They've got everything. What's not to like? Oh, but what are we going to do about the wine? Leave that to me. Well, and that's fair enough. But for research councils to work, we need peer review. We need researchers to look at the research and decide whether it's worthy of funding. Now, Scotland's a small country, and guaranteed your research probably has as much broad appeal as artisan macaroni pies. So we've got to get researchers in from abroad. We've got to get international reviewers to review our papers, and they won't want in on the Scottish research councils. They'll have tried munchie boxes, and the digestive systems will have never been the same since. So we're going to have to pay them. So behind every great scientist of the 21st century is intrigue, intellect, and the ability to convince a complete stranger to give you £50,000 in exchange for a Word document 2 years later. When you want funding, you've got to write a grant proposal, and the safest bet is to put down stuff you've pretty much already done, and then in the post-grant report, write down why you did something completely different. For example, this project aims to create life in the laboratory from small molecules. Becomes, we made this nondescript yellow powder, which makes pretty patterns when you put it into water. sometimes. This project aims to produce a cure for all forms of cancer. Becomes, we made this molecule, right, that makes E. coli go kind of penis-shaped. And one of our postdocs thought that was really funny. But I can't slate Scottish research too much. Scotland's a small country that punches well above its weight in terms of research. We've got to fund Scottish research in independent Scotland. I mean, it doesn't just go to a black hole. It doesn't just go into some principal investigator's bondage dungeon fund. I wouldn't be here without research funding, and I guess indirectly that funds our local bars and curry houses. Great for Glasgow. It also pays for some of the fancy, overpriced equipment that we need to use, and someone's going to make it, so I might just get a job when I finish. But once you've done some research, you've got to publish something for it to count, and someone's got to read it, and or at least pretend to have read it, and cite it. And citing a paper is a little bit like sex. You can do it yourself, just don't get caught doing it too many times by the editor of a major journal. If you want to be in one of them science documentaries, it doesn't give you much academic recognition. It's a bit like being in porn. It feels really good, but no one wants to see your face. But, all right, I've slated Scottish research a bit too much. I'll say something nice about them. Scotland has produced some excellent academic achievements over the past 100 or so years. We've had Lord Kelvin from the University of Glasgow, who came up with a temperature scale suitable for Scotland. We've also had, very recently, Peter Higgs winning the Nobel Prize for Physics for discovering the particle responsible for mass. But I feel a little bit sorry for him, really. You see, you can't win a Nobel Prize posthumously. And every year the Nobel Foundation have a list of deserving candidates, and they have to go through and figure out who to give the prize to one year and who they reckon's going to cling on another year. So if you win a Nobel Prize, it doesn't mean you're a genius. It just means you've produced a lasting contribution to your field. It's had broad appeal outside your field, and you're going to die. I had to explain this quite a lot when I said that I really hope they give Margaret Thatcher the Nobel Prize for her work on discovering, inventing soft scoop ice cream. But fortunately, that doesn't matter anymore. Thank you and good night.